Welcome to the Holy Heroes Podcast. I'm Clara, the host of the show. Tune in each week and help us bring the joy and wonder of the faith to your family. Each episode will be filled with fun and inspirational stories, music, and more for kids, plus a bonus segment at the end for parents. And don't worry, we always have plenty of additional resources at holyheroesfun.com. Welcome back to the Holy Heroes Podcast. I'm Clara. Happy Easter! After a long Lent, we now have an even longer Easter season, and we are so glad you are choosing to celebrate by listening to this week's episode. We have some special Easter surprises, so go ahead and share this episode with a friend. Now, here is what we are going to be talking about today. We are kicking things off today with a short introduction about Divine Mercy Sunday and how it came to be part of the liturgical year. You will get to hear some of our Glory Stories audio drama about St. Faustina, which is one of my favorites. Next, we may have another miracle to tell you about, so keep listening. We heard your request for another song, so get ready to learn a beautiful prayer that you can sing the entire Easter season. Finally, moms, there is a special guest at the end of this week's episode, so make sure you stay till the end to hear. Do you remember last week's episode when we prayed the Divine Mercy Chaplet? Maybe you prayed it again on Good Friday. Now, do you know where we got this prayer? It's a pretty amazing story that happened less than 100 years ago in Poland. Faustina Kowalska was a Polish sister in the Congregation of the Sisters of Our Lady of Mercy. Yeah, that's a big name. One night, Sister Faustina received a very special visitor. Jesus himself appeared to her in her little cell where she slept. He asked her to have a picture painted to show his divine mercy with the words, "Jesus, I trust in you," written on the bottom. Faustina, who wasn't an artist, asked the priest who heard her confession what she should do. This is what the priest said.
Sister Faustina, you must do what he commands. You must. I will find an artist, and you will help him to paint this image you have seen. This image of divine mercy. This will help people see the source of the mercy that flows through priest in confession, and through you, and through all people when we show Christ's mercy to others.
And so, at her direction, an artist painted the image of divine mercy. But when she saw it, she was very disappointed with the results. She returned to the convent and went straight to the chapel.
Oh, Jesus, who will paint you as beautiful as you are? This image is lovely, but it is no match for your immense beauty.
Jesus reassured her.
My child, it is not in the beauty of the color or in the stroke of the brush that this image is great. It is because of my grace. The flames of mercy are burning me. So much am I longing to send my mercy to all souls. It is your duty to remind people that I am coming as the just judge, but first I am coming as the King of mercy. Whoever recites the prayer I shall teach you and marks the hour of my death with even the tiniest prayer will receive more graces than his soul could ever need.
Oh, Jesus, you are so generous and forgiving. Help me to spread this devotion to all the ends of the earth, so that not one soul is kept from your infinite goodness.
Today, the fountain of God's mercy flows down upon our souls when we go to confession. Our Lord told Faustina, "I myself am waiting there for you. I am only hidden by the priest. Open your soul in confession as you would to me, and I will fill it with my light." Faustina died on October 5, 1938, when she was just 33 years old. On April 30, 2000, she was canonized a saint by Pope John Paul II. He also established the second Sunday of Easter as Divine Mercy Sunday. On that day, the soul of a little Polish nun rejoiced from heaven to see that God's mercy, poured out so generously for all souls, had flowed through her to the whole world.
O blood and water which gushed forth from the heart of Jesus as a fount of mercy for us, I trust in you.
Not only do we have a beautiful Divine Mercy image, but Jesus also gave St. Faustina the beautiful Divine Mercy Chaplet during his visit. We prayed the Divine Mercy Chaplet in last week's episode, but today might be a wonderful time to go back and pray it again. We don't have time to tell the entire story of St. Faustina and the amazing reason that she even became a nun because, well, Jesus had already appeared to her when she was just a teenager. If you want to hear that entire story, you can go to holyheroesfund.com and download the entire glory story of St. Faustina there. Before we wrap up the story of St. Faustina and Divine Mercy, can I tell you about one more amazing thing? Actually, I'm going to let someone else tell you about it.
It's time for miracles, mysteries, and wonders. Take a moment to ponder one of God's miracles, how He reveals His power and dominion over all He has created. Or one of the mysteries we cannot explain, which He gives to delight our minds and hearts. Or the wonder at the amazing things we find in the universe, where He pours out His love to surround and support us. Will open your eyes to astound you with God's miracles, mysteries, and wonders. A listener to this podcast asked me to tell you about today's miracle, mystery, and wonder. It is about the Divine Mercy painting. You've already heard a little bit of the glory story of St. Faustina. Jesus himself appeared to her to ask her to teach us to pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet and to have a painting done, the painting that we now call the Divine Mercy image. Speaking of the Divine Mercy Chaplet, did you know that when my daughter Clara was little, she would sometimes ask for the family to pray the Divine Mercy Chaplet instead of the rosary at night before bedtime? She would lead the prayers and she would often sing it. In fact, in the last podcast, that was Clara singing the Divine Mercy prayers. You can learn to sing the prayers by listening to her, or you can get our Best Loved Catholic Prayers CD and learn to pray it that way. Now, let me tell you about the Divine Mercy image. The original one, the one which St. Faustina's artist painted, was hidden away and only recently found again. Guess where it was hidden? In a church named for St. Michael the Archangel. No, it wasn't the same church in Manipello, Italy, where the Volto Santo I talked about in the first episode was hidden. It was in another church named for St. Michael. They had to hide the painting because it was finished right before World War II began, and they had to hide it from the communists and the Nazis, who were both destroying holy things. Now, St. Faustina spent months with the artist, and she said no matter how many times he kept repainting the face of Jesus, it never looked as beautiful as he was. The artist actually kept repainting and changing things 10 times before Jesus told St. Faustina it was good enough. And here's a miracle. When the painting was publicly displayed and blessed by a priest for the very first time, St. Faustina saw Jesus come alive in the painting and make the sign of the cross. So St. Faustina was satisfied too, at last. But here's another miraculous thing that I really wanted to tell you about. The original painting was hidden, so other artists made their own versions of the painting, but they were all painted after St. Faustina had died, so she could not review and approve them. The other artists painted pretty pictures. You've probably seen some of them, but they were not as precise as St. Faustina wanted for the original while she was alive. The original painting has now been found and has been investigated over the past 30 years. And you know what? Do you remember me telling you about the Shroud of Turin, which was one of the cloths used to wrap Jesus when he was placed in the tomb? One of the cloths that St. Peter and St. John found in the tomb on Easter morning? The shroud shows an image of the full body of Jesus, front and back, and the Divine Mercy image shows Jesus standing, his full body from the front. The shroud shows Jesus dead after being crucified, and the Divine Mercy image shows him alive, looking out at all of us with his hand up to bless us, and the rays of his love and mercy coming from his heart. And everything on the painting matches what is on the shroud. Not only do the rays coming from the heart of Jesus match where the blood from his heart is on the Shroud of Turin, and the shoulders are in the same place, but the face is a perfect match. Here's the amazing part. St. Faustina never saw the shroud or even a picture of it, but she did see Jesus face to face. So she kept making the artist change things in the painting until Jesus finally told her it was good enough. And the lips, the eyes, the mouth, the cheekbones, the eyebrows, and the position of his heart, everything is an exact match to the burial shroud of Jesus. We have all sorts of Divine Mercy materials for you on our website. In fact, we just made a hard case for iPhones with the original Divine Mercy image on it and the words, "Jesus, I trust in you," to remind you to pray, hope, and not worry. I got one for my own phone, in fact. We'll put links with this podcast to all our Divine Mercy products, including the Glory Story, the coloring book, and more. Now, are there other miracles, mysteries, and wonders which you'd like us to investigate and tell you about? Call us at 1-855-879-2246 and press option 5. Or you can take the survey we've also posted.
The story of Divine Mercy and St. Faustina is one of my very favorites, and I'm so glad I got to share it with you this week. At Sunday Mass, which is Divine Mercy Sunday, make sure you say an extra prayer and thank Jesus for the amazing gift of his divine mercy. This Sunday, which is Divine Mercy Sunday, make sure you say an extra prayer at Mass and thank Jesus for the amazing gift of his divine mercy, because that is the greatest miracle of all. We have another beautiful prayer to talk about today, and this one you get to sing. My sister is going to explain the prayer, and we're all going to sing it for you.
In the Easter season, which lasts for 50 days from Easter Sunday to Pentecost, we sing the Regina Caeli instead of the Angelus.
When we sing the Regina Caeli, we are rejoicing with Mary because Jesus rose from the dead on Easter Sunday.
We sing the Regina Caeli in Latin because it is a special language of the Catholic Church.
Regina Caeli, Laetore, Alleluia, quia, venerum insti portare, Alleluia, resurrexit, sicut dixit, Alleluia, ora pro nobis Deum, Alleluia.
Thanks for singing along with us. Since this prayer is in Latin, let me tell you what it means in English, though you may have recognized one word in the song already. This is what it means in English. Queen of heaven, rejoice, Alleluia. For he whom you did merit to bear, Alleluia, has risen as he said, Alleluia. Rejoice and be glad, O Virgin Mary, Alleluia. For the Lord has truly risen, Alleluia. Since we don't say the Alleluia during Lent, you'll notice that we say it a lot during the Easter season. You can sing this prayer every day during the Easter season because yes, Easter is more than just one day, but more on that next week. this part is for you. Today, my friend Theoni Bell is coming on to talk about how to support mothers during a miscarriage. I know that this is a topic that has impacted many of us, and I think it's an important one to share today. But if you would rather listen to this not around little ears, this is your chance to pause and press play a little later.
Alrighty, I am very happy to welcome Theoni Bell to the podcast. Theoni is here to talk to us about how to support a mother and family going through a miscarriage. Theoni has had personal experience with this, so I'm really excited that she gets to share this with us. So, Theoni, could you just share some tips for how to support a mother and then even a family going through a miscarriage?
So the biggest thing I think for helping a family who has suffered this kind of loss would be to be open to sharing your own story, first off, if you've had any losses, because that it's very comforting to feel welcome to share your story. But also something that helped my family was to receive memorials for the baby. We have embroidered ornaments for our Christmas tree, and we have prints that different artists made, and we have memory boxes, and there's so many things on Etsy that you can find. And this is a great way for you to show the family how much you support them, that you're praying for them, but then also for years to come, it's a memory of not only their child, but that love that you tried to give them. There's other things you can send as well, meals, cards, flowers, and prayer cards also of some saints who understand loss, so that the children and the parents can reach out to those saints, feel kind of a connection to heaven, and also it's helpful to read about loss as you're grieving. So to read it through the eyes of the saints who were so full of faith and hope is very helpful. One thing I think that people often forget is that the children definitely need support when they lose a sibling. And we really felt loved when we received cards from some of the kids in our homeschool group that were addressed to my children. And they still have those cards, again, as memorials of their sibling, but also because they felt so loved by the faith community at that time. And then there's bigger things you can do as well if you have the time for it. For us, someone set up a meal train. Someone set up a GoFundMe page for donations to help us pay for the funeral and medical costs. You can also just reach out and say, do you need help? Now, I suggest when you do this that you give some suggestions of ways you can help, because often the family is so overwhelmed they can't think of what you could do. So you could help drive the kids to their various events, or you can come help clean the house. You can do grocery runs or order groceries for the family. You can come mow the lawn. And then don't stop checking in. I really felt comforted when I received even just the smallest text message that said, I'm still praying for you, or I'm still here if you need to talk. So, I mean, emails, phone calls, text messages. If you're not very close to the person, it doesn't matter. I received text messages and emails from total strangers, and just to know that I wasn't alone really helped me to heal afterward. And then finally, be the friend who remembers the anniversary of the loss, and just send a quick note, or, send some sort of beautiful Bible verse on that day, so that when that day comes, and those days are often pretty hard on families, that person will still feel the love from the community that they had received in the beginning.
Yeah, I remember meals were so helpful, especially after my second trimester loss. I didn't realize how long it would take me to get back on my feet, so I'm glad you mentioned that. The one thing I did, I was actually very surprised to find when we started doing research into this among Catholic communities, is really the piece of supporting living siblings. More and more people are just saying that this is a really tough topic when it comes to explaining to their other children. And one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to you, Theoni, is because of your personal experience, but also because of the book you have written that is going to help parents talk about this with their living children. Could you just share, your personal experience, what led you to write the picture book, Jelly Bean, and how it's going to be helpful to families?
Yes, I really hope it is helpful. We lost our daughter at 27 weeks gestation a few years ago. She was stillborn, and then I spent 5 days in the hospital because I had lost so much blood from the delivery that I needed some extra care. And while I was there, my husband brought me a suitcase full of things I would need, and inside was a brand new journal. And in the cover, my daughter had written, "Mom, write me something," and she was 9 at the time. And all I could think about, of course, was this little perfect baby that I had just lost and how much I missed her and longed for her. And so I began to write her life story and imagine what that was like and how she may have known our love and known our personalities and been part of the family even though she was in the womb. So at first, the book was only for me to hold on to my child and to feel closer to her. But then I noticed that a book like this would have been very helpful for each of my children. I had 3, and they all grieved in their own way. And then I began to share it with my own children. But then as I met more and more moms who had also lost, I received such great feedback on it. Most of them would say, "You brought me to tears, and this is so helpful," or "This fills me with so much hope, this is beautiful." And I realized that I should seek a publisher at that point because the lost community is just so big that there's just so many people who need healing and hope, and especially the children who are left after their sibling goes.
It is really hard, and I'm really excited. It's bad to say you're excited, but I am very excited that families will now have this resource. It's Jelly Bean, A Baby's Journey to God. And I'll make sure it's linked in the show notes at holyheroesfund.com. But I do just think this is going to be a way to talk to children about what has happened and leave them with a feeling of hope, because it is a really devastating situation to be in. Theoni, do you have any other things you would like to add, either for a mom going through this, who has gone through this, or just how to support a mom? I know you've covered a lot of topics, but any final words about that?
So one thing I would say about the book, I had a child who was asking a lot of questions, and this book was very helpful to her because she would ask the same questions over and over. She's the type of child who would go off with a book and read it a million times. But I had another child who did not want to talk to me about it at all. She couldn't handle the intensity of the emotions she was feeling, and just that's her personality. And I realized a book like this was also good for her because she could take it and go off on her own and not need to share her emotions with me or, feel super exposed and vulnerable. So I really think a book like this is going to help so many kids and just reach them where they're at in their own grieving process, because just like adults, they all are going to grieve in their own way. The other thing I would suggest, along with praying to your children who are in heaven, is to pray to saints, like I mentioned earlier, who have lost children or lost siblings. And just a few, St. Zélie and Louis Martin, the parents of St. Therese, they lost 3 infants and a child at age 5. I found reading the letters of St. Zélie, where she talks about those losses, was very healing for me. St. Catherine of Siena was a twin, and her twin died at birth. And St. Catherine of Sweden, she took care of women after they lost babies. And for siblings, obviously St. Therese, as I mentioned, she lost 4 of her siblings, and there's even some writings from her on how she felt about that. And then St. Jose Maria Escriva, he lost 3 sisters. One was 9 months, one was 5 years, and one was 8 years. There are so many saints, and I really think that they help you during this time. I've talked to my children who say praying to the saints help them at this time. So reach out to those who are in heaven with your child, and God's definitely going to help you heal through this process.
Thank you so much for sharing that. tell people where they can find you, along with your book, Jelly Bean, which will be at holyheroes.com.
Yeah, so you can find out more about my story of loss and other things I've written at theonibell.com, TheoniBell.com.
Perfect. And I'll make sure that's also linked to the show notes.
Thank you so much, Clara. I'm so happy to be able to share this story with everyone.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for listening to the Holy Heroes podcast. Make sure you subscribe and tell your friends to listen in. All of the resources, printables, and more can be found at holyheroesfund.com. Make sure you tune in next week, and I can't wait to see you in heaven.